Sarah Bernhardt by Félix Nadar. Welcome back. Today we're looking at one of the most iconic portrait photographs of the 19th century, Sarah Bernhardt, taken by the French master photographer Félix Nadar around 1864. It's a black and white image, simple on the surface but extraordinarily rich once you begin to look closely. Let's unpack it. Before we talk about the photograph itself, let's take a moment to understand the man behind the camera. Gaspard Félix Tournichon, known to the world simply as Nadar, was born in Paris in 1820. He started his career as a journalist and caricaturist, and that background shaped everything about how he approached portraiture. He wasn't interested in stiff, formal studio poses. He wanted to capture character, the inner life of a person, their intelligence, their fire. Nadar opened his famous photography studio on the Boulevard des Capucines in Paris in the 1850s, and it quickly became the meeting place for the Parisian cultural elite. Writers, painters, composers, actors, they all came to Nadar. He photographed Victor Hugo, Charles Baudelaire, Gustave Courbet, and Georges Sand, among dozens of others. His portraits are now considered some of the foundational documents of 19th-century intellectual life. Nadar was also a genuine innovator. He was the first photographer to use artificial electric lighting in a studio and the first to take aerial photographs from a hot air balloon. He was, in every sense, a pioneer, not just technically but artistically. Now, the woman in the photograph, Sarah Bernhardt, was, at the time this portrait was taken, a rising star at the Comédie-Française, and she would go on to become arguably the most famous actress of the 19th century, celebrated across Europe and America. She was known as the Divine Sarah, a title that tells you everything about how her contemporaries perceived her. Bernhardt was famous for her voice, described as golden, hypnotic, impossible to ignore, and for her emotional intensity on stage. She played both classical and contemporary roles with equal mastery, including famously the role of Hamlet, a man's role taken on without apology. But what's fascinating is that even before her greatest fame, in photographs like this one, that extraordinary presence is already undeniable. Look at the composition. Bernhardt leans with her arms resting on what appears to be a low pedestal or ledge. Her body is turned slightly, but her gaze, direct, steady, almost challenging, comes straight toward the camera. There's no coyness here, no performance of modesty. She meets the viewer as an equal. Her hair is loose and curly, falling naturally around her face. This was unusual for formal portraiture of the era, where women were typically photographed with their hair pinned and ordered. The informality reads as a statement. This is a woman comfortable in her own unconventional skin. The drapery she wears, a large, flowing cloth wrapped loosely around her shoulders, adds a sculptural quality to the image. It echoes classical Greek and Roman statuary, giving her an almost timeless, mythological feel. Nadar was clearly thinking not just about fashion or documentation, but about art history. He's positioning Bernhardt within a long tradition of beauty and power. Notice the lighting. It comes from the upper left, casting soft, gradual shadows across her face and the fabric. This creates incredible depth and texture. You can almost feel the weight of the cloth, the softness of her skin. This is not a snapshot. Every element has been carefully considered. The background is neutral, deliberately simple, so that absolutely nothing competes with her. This is a radical choice. The entire image is Bernhardt, and Bernhardt alone. What makes this photograph truly exceptional is the visible trust between photographer and subject. Nadar had a gift for making his sitters feel seen rather than scrutinized, and Bernhardt, who was known to be fiercely selective about her public image, clearly gave herself over to his direction. The result is something rare in 19th-century photography, a woman who does not appear to be performing for the camera, but simply existing in front of it, with total self-possession. This photograph has survived more than 160 years, and it still stops you cold. It's a testament to two extraordinary talents meeting at the right moment. A photographer who understood that a portrait is a kind of collaboration, and a subject whose inner life was simply too powerful to be contained by the frame. If you're interested in exploring more of Nadar's work, his portraits are held in the Bibliothèque Nationale de France, and many are freely available to view online. Sarah Bernhardt's story, meanwhile, is one that richly rewards reading. Her autobiography, My Double Life, gives a vivid sense of a woman who truly lived on her own terms. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this analysis, subscribe and leave a comment. I'd love to know which portrait you'd like us to look at next.